projects. The infographic that is being displayed, which is also in your program, I will explain it. Because in order to be able to unpack this and to assist the current budget process, we need to be able to show what is going on. So based on these findings, we obtained the budgetary allocation for 2019 and broke down the allocations. Our findings are contained in the summary which is included in the program and found in the file jackets of participants to this summit. As Your Excellency will notice from the sectoral allocation, empowerment and capacity building take over 50% of the budget for zonal intervention projects. Now, if the releases are made, this allocation cannot be effectively tracked except we adopt a different implementation approach. Furthermore, we analyzed allocations to MDAs, geopolitical zones, and states. This analysis is designed to assist our investigation. We want to know ahead of time where to look and at what to look. This is the first time that the Commission will be using data and facts to prepare itself for enforcement and prevention. So if you look at this data that is showing on the screen, it shows you the distribution of allocation across the country. The amount that is in red is very instructive. As Your Excellency will notice in the breakdown before use, 3.9 billion is embedded in the 2019 zonal intervention project budget, but it is not allocated to any project or sector. However, by the analysis we have done, we can see the states where the money may be potentially taken if it is released. Needless to say, we are persuaded, sir, that Mr. President will not allow the release of money embedded in the budget for no particular purpose. On the implementation of constituency projects, we want to humbly recommend, sir, that MDAs must not be given projects that are not related to their mandate. Secondly, project sponsors should not be allowed to select the implementing agency. Government should decide the agencies that are approved to implement projects for transparency and accountability and for effective supervision of value for money. Project sponsors should be requested to indicate and to submit their preferred projects at the same time when the executive requests for submissions from MDAs to avoid duplicity, embedment, misallocation, and ultimately misappropriation. Completed projects should be handed over to local government officials and community leaders, including traditional rulers, to take ownership and to secure and maintain projects. We found, sir, in our review, that in some cases, sponsors rightly nominate, say, a water project for their community. The community members travel 3-4 kilometers to get water, and the water is not even clean, it's from a stream. So the project is delivered, there is water in the community, but within a short time, the pump is damaged. And because of the impression that the project was dominated by a legislator who was doing the right thing, the community just stay away, they don't do anything to provide a pump for themselves. And it's because of the way the project is delivered and the impression that is given that this is personalized rather than institutionalized. So we want to suggest that projects are public projects, paid for by public funds. They must be handed over to the community, especially the local governments, at least so that the intention about the projects will continue to be realized. Government should restrict capacity building and empowerment projects to no more than 2.5% or less of total constituency project budget, as empowerment projects are highly prone to abuse and to corruption. They cannot be easily monitored. During this project, we went to some communities and we insisted, who are the people that were trained? Sometimes they'll give you a list of names of the beneficiaries, all written by one person, the same signature. It wasn't the people who indicated. So it's impossible virtually to verify or validate the information that you are being given. Government should work more closely with civil society and the media to educate communities on approved constituency projects, the value and the location. The current lack of information fuels corruption. Immediate reform measures are essential, especially now that the National Assembly has been recently reported to be considering a bill to mandate 2.5% of the annual national budget for constituency projects to be administered by a single ministry, viz. A proposed or the existing Ministry of Agric and Rural Development. While this initiative is still open to rigorous debate, we will humbly advise a complete overhaul and sanitization of the current system First of all, as part of our learning curve, the new legislative proposal to domicile ZIPs in one MDA, it may be an attractive prospect, but we need to deeply reflect on its pros and its cons. Otherwise, we may end up devoting more resources to be potentially stolen or mismanaged from one single location. I am, however, delighted at the proposal to punish without discrimination those who abuse the process within the legislature or the executive and their collaborators, which sometimes include community leaders, traditional rulers, and the companies and corporations that are used to steal public funds. Furthermore, we must entrench a relationship with cost and quality management experts like the Institute of Quantity Surveyors to ensure that what is delivered are not substandard. Furthermore, we must insist that the so-called empowerment and capacity building activities are either completely removed or left at no more than a negligible percentage of the entire allocation because of the reasons which I have given above. On our part, in ICPC, sir, we're launching next week a nationwide community enlightenment and advocacy initiative called My Constituency, My Project. In your files, you will find a flyer titled My Constituency, My Project. The intention is to sensitize communities to own the projects approved for them by government and the amount that is involved. The flyer for this initiative, we have disaggregated the project allocation to each senatorial district and local government in Nigeria. We have also created a toll-free line through which Nigerians can call to find out the projects allocated to their constituency. What we have done is we have digitized it. We have laid it out in a way that if you phone from any part of Nigeria and say, I'm calling from Kaura Namoda, this is my LG, I want to know which project is allocated from me, we will be able to tell you on the phone and we'll tell you the amount. If we're working with budget office, so that if the money is released, we will know. We will also say the money has been released. This is to let constituencies know, communities know what is going on, and so that they can show an interest. It's one thing for the government to say, we're doing this for you. It is another thing for the communities to take ownership. The president, the governor, the senator, the representative can only do so much. The rest is for the communities to do. So we have uploaded this information on our website, and I want to encourage everybody here to check. If it is not working well, please get back to us so that we can improve on it. Before I end my brief on this initiative, I wish to publicly, and this is not political talk, publicly acknowledge the cooperation, the support, and the non-interference of the Senate leadership on this constituency project tracking initiative. A number of people have asked me, oh, are the Senate in support? The answer is a big yes, because I discussed it with the Senate president, and not once has there been any interference in the activities. The leadership and the support of the Senate president and the chairman and members of the anti-corruption committees who are both here this morning, and at the Senate and the House of Reps, have contributed to the success of this pilot stage and the delivery of social development to the people. Our hope, and the reason why we discussed with the Office of the SGF, is that some of the reform measures that we are proposing will be accommodated in 2020 budget, so that we can see an improvement in the way that constituency projects are delivered in the next budget cycle. The next thing I want to go to, sir, is our system study and review of MDA's practices. Mr. President, sir, when you inaugurated this board, you directed that we should scale up our prevention mandate, because as you told us, prevention is better than cure. In this regard, we widened the use of our powers under Section 6B to D of our enabling law to scrutinize the practices, systems, and procedures of MDAs in respect of personnel costs from 2017 to July 2019 and the 2018 Capital Development Fund. Part of our preliminary findings, the summary of which are also included in a visual narrative in your folders, revealed gross abuse of personnel budget and inflation, or the padding of the nominal roll. As at the time we went to press for this summit, we had covered about 300 MDAs, and the amount that was inflated when we went to press and printed those documents was about 12 billion. Today, Your Excellency, we have discovered an additional 6 billion, making a total of 18.624 billion that has been restrained by ICPC. What we did was to write to the Minister of Finance and to tell her that Obviously, these MDs have padded their personnel budget and that she should not allow the money to be released through the e-government platform. If the money was in the bank, we would have simply blocked it because we have power to do so. And the Minister of Finance responded quickly. And we have since made a second request. Now the MDAs the exercise is still going on, but we can confidently report at this point that most of the culprit MDAs are mostly academic and health institutions. For example, preliminary findings, and I emphasize the word preliminary findings, maybe they have some explanation, we don't know. Preliminary findings show that the University of Benin Teaching Hospital padded its payroll budget by 1.1 billion. Federal Medical Center Bayelsa, 915 million. Nnamdi Azikiwe University, 907 million. University of Jos, 896 million. University College Hospital Ibadan, 701 million. Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto, 636 million. University of Ibadan, 558 million. I simply took the top range. Now, those institutions and all those who are implicated will be given the opportunity to explain. However, while these investigations are on to confirm any possible credible explanations that they may have, we have alerted the Minister of Finance of our findings, and the appropriate steps are being taken to ensure that the implicated MD will not be able to spend the excess that has been built into their personnel budget. Let me note with regret, sir, that in the 2017 to 2018 fiscal year, the balances that were recorded for personnel were wrongfully utilized by all the MDAs that were implicated for other purposes due to proactivity by law enforcement agencies and related agencies. The sum, based on our evaluation, amounted to 18.39 billion for those 2 years. In light of these findings, sir, we encourage the full implementation of Mr. President's directive that MDAs that are not on IPs should not be paid, as our review shows that most of the guilty MDAs are actually not on IPs. In a similar vein, we found that some MDAs spent 9.2 billion of the capital funds on overhead-related items contrary to extant financial regulations. We found, to our surprise, that some MDAs failed to remit tax and they divert pension and NHIS deductions for unrelated payments, thus aggravating the sufferings of other Nigerians. Some MDAs abuse the e-payment policy of government, thus making payments through staff accounts instead of to actual beneficiaries. The most egregious in the current cycle of review that we are doing is the Federal Minister of Water Resources, where 3.3 billion was paid out in about a month through the accounts of staff. ICPC arrested 59 directors from that ministry, and the investigation is ongoing. We hope that the conversation that we'll have in this 1.5 day summit will lead to some concrete suggestions towards reducing these anomalous practices and processes that fuel corruption and undermine the development aspirations of the country. ICPC will take enforcement actions, including recovery of diverted funds, name and shame, and prosecution of the most serious cases of infraction, while putting some MDAs on a watch list due to their vulnerability or the propensity to corruption. We recommend, sir, that diversion or non-payment or remittance of tax, of pension, health insurance, or any other statutory deduction should attract dismissal of the head of the agency and immediate prosecution. Should government accept this recommendation, ICPC will be very happy to furnish the list of defaulting MDAs. The fourth area that I look at is the Ethics, Compliance, and Integrity Scorecard. In the light of the findings on abuse of personnel and capital development fund by some MDAs, ICPC for the first time, we decided to conduct an integrity score analysis on MDAs, because when you keep seeing something, it's like seeing a doctor, there's something obviously wrong. So you need to go there and say, okay, so exactly what is wrong? Why is this MDA or this ministry so prone to these vulnerabilities? The scorecard, which is a rating mechanism focused on systems and practices of MDAs with regard to three key parameters: management culture and structure, financial management systems, and administrative systems. This scorecard focused only for this pilot phase on 108 MDAs in the Federal Capital Territory, because it is a pilot project. We scored the MDAs on the basis of full compliance, substantial compliance, partial compliance, or absolute non-compliance. The summary of our findings are contained in the visually representative booklet, which is also in your files for this summit. In summary, we found that most MDAs lack core values and systems to guide the staff. They do not have domesticated codes of conduct and ethics and policies that regarding acceptance of gift, donation, hospitality. Government-wide civil service rules, where they exist on these issues, are either ignored or completely discountenanced. We also found that the absence of constituted boards for some MDAs contribute to higher corruption risk, while some that have boards do not have the capacity to guide or to effectively direct the MDAs towards achieving the mandate of the MDAs and the vision of the government and the president. It is thus imperative for government to rethink its current approach and to prepare board members well for their task of oversighting the affairs of MDAs. There should be no assumption that when somebody is appointed to an MDA, they know what to do when they get there. Most MDAs do not have fraud prevention strategies, such as checks and balances, periodic published audited accounts, stock verification systems. The management of some of the MDAs do not institute system studies or corruption risk assessments, and thus there is no input for decision-making for system improvement. Many MDAs do not have anti-corruption transparency units as internal checks to corruption risks, and contrary to explicit government directives and circulars to this effect. Where the Act 2 exists, they are hardly allowed to function, and they are not allowed to direct access to the chief executive of the organization that they are supposed to assist to curb corruption without hindrance or interference from other management staff. Therefore, they are not protected from executive or office bureaucracy. ICPC intends to collaborate with the Office of the Secretary of the Government and the Office of the Head of Service to improve on ethics and integrity system within the government in order to diminish corruption and corruption risks. We will also monitor closely low-scoring and non-responsive MDAs due to their high propensity for default. The outcome of this maiden exercise reflects the top and bottom 5 of ministries and the top and bottom 10 for parastatals. Other ICPC achievements. Sir, I have focused on our efforts in 3 key main areas, but other efforts and achievements of the board since inauguration include asset recovery. In the past 10 months, sir, we have recovered over 250 physical choice assets worth over 32 billion in seizures, interim forfeiture orders, and final orders. We also have cash recoveries in interim and final orders in Naira and USD amounting to over 3 billion. We are mindful of Mr. President's directive that recovered assets should be properly disposed of and the proceeds paid into the National Treasury. Sir, we are taking steps to fully comply with this directive. Although most of the recovered assets are under interim forfeiture, we hope and we believe that under the leadership and the determination of my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, we will see an improvement in the turnaround time for the adjudication of corruption cases. In the interim, we also hope that my Lord will fully enforce the directives of the NJC that all judicial divisions designate courts to prioritize corruption cases. More importantly, we hope that the current nationalistic and proactive National Assembly will pass the Special Crimes Court Act as requested by Mr. President. The ICPC is also contributing to the increase in public revenue by tax profiling of all companies that are under our investigation and those getting public contracts for non-payment, underpayment, forgery of tax papers, or diversion of tax by those companies. All such companies are directed to update their tax obligations as part of our enforcement measures and directives. In other words, any company that becomes a customer of ICPC, irrespective of why you are within our premises, we will check your tax record. It doesn't matter why you came. Even if it's on a visit, we will check your tax records. And we forward the names of the companies to officials of FRS who are working with us in partnership. They are here today. And if you are not up to date, that's the first thing you go and do before anything else. ICPC is taking measures to enhance our prevention measures and the use of Section 6B of our enabling statute because enforcement is costly and it is time-consuming. In deserving cases, ICPC will consult affected MDAs before directing changes to make for more effective prevention measures. Inexplicable and unjustifiable resistance to corrective measures will be met by enforcement actions, including prosecution, naming and shaming. This summit, we hope, will review the practices that promote corruption, and hopefully we can collectively together bring up effective prevention measures to reduce corruption in the use of government revenue and in service delivery. Mr. President, sir, we have succeeded in getting the ICPC designated as an additional focal point under the AU Convention on Prevention of Corruption, and in support of Mr. President's prestigious role as AU anti-corruption champion. In this regard, I am happy to inform Mr. President, sir, that the ICPC is one of the institutions that is being consulted and currently making input into the development of a common African position on asset recovery. This initiative is being led by a committee headed by President Thabo Mbeki. Furthermore, sir, ICPC is Secretariat of the Interagency Committee on Implementation of the Thabo Mbeki Report on Illicit Financial Flows from Africa. We are working very hard to improve the turnaround time for investigation, and we have also increased the number of cases filed in the past 10 months compared to previous years. Next year, ICPC will be 20. We will be inviting Mr. President to the key activity for that year, but we are also conducting a National Corruption Index, a kind of review of our own, as different from Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, to tell our own story, ask ourselves what are we doing wrong, and to honestly take corrective measures that we know that we have to take. Some recommendations. Sir, we humbly recommend that Mr. President direct the prompt suspension and indictment of public officers that are under investigation or prosecution in accordance with extant civil service rules. ICPC found that some civil servants serve conviction terms and they return to work as if nothing has happened. Such persons should be flushed out of the system in accordance with extant laws. We have communicated a list of such persons to government. We also advise that digital information sharing between anti-corruption agencies and the financial services sector that is critical to preventing money laundering and other corruption prevention measures, and indeed enhanced security, should be automatic. All anti-corruption agencies as a policy ought to have seamless access to existing database on suspects and the profile and biometric of persons of interest. Interagency collaboration is essential to avoid duplication and waste of resources in the investigation and prosecution of cases. This is in line with Mr. President's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan agenda for 2019 and beyond. In conclusion, sir, Your Excellency, Mr. President, sir, distinguished Senate President here represented, my Lord the Chief Justice, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, we are very delighted at the emergence of a responsive and cooperative leadership in the three arms of government under the leadership of Mr. President. As the whole world can see, the newfound cooperation between arms of government and the existence of responsive and nationalistic legislature is already culminating in the improvement of passage of critical legislation and the budgeting process generally. And hopefully we believe it will lead to diminishing corruption in particular. In this regard, I wish to note humbly that opacity in the use of legislature or judiciary budget in the name of independence undermines the essence of cooperative fiscal governance, where budgetary requests and allocation to arms of government is not only justified but fully accounted for. Anything short of this will be seen by the public as less than transparent and hypocritical. It may also dent the anti-corruption standing of the leadership of all the arms of government. Under the leadership of Mr. President, we at ICPC are available to cooperate with and to support the effort of the government and the leadership of the three arms of government to fight corruption, to improve fiscal transparency and governance. No less is expected of us. This is what our law says we should do. This is what we will strive to do within our capacity. In this regard, I wish to thank the board and the management and staff of ICPC for rising up to the occasion of the reforms that we have introduced since February, for their selfless service to implement the mandate of the Commission. From the bottom of my heart, I say God bless you all. I also want to thank the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and the entire OSGF planning team, led by the Permanent Secretary GSO, Mr. Segun Adekunle, for their invaluable assistance and support for making this summit possible. The SGF is boss indeed. Finally, Your Excellency, Mr. President, sir, your integrity and unequivocal standing and the leadership of the other arms of government encourage the OSGF and ICPC to celebrate today two ordinary Nigerians, tempted, just like many other public servants are, to be corrupt and to compromise integrity, but rather they chose to rise above greed and lure to become examples of integrity, thus becoming the first ever Public Service Integrity Awardees. With your kind permission, sir, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome to the podium the ACG Bashir Abubakar of the Nigeria Customs Service. Mr. Abubakar and the second awardee, Mrs. Josephine Ugu of Federal Airports Authority. The two awardees will receive the 2019 Public Service Integrity Award from Mr. President, a token accompanying gift, and a once-in-a-lifetime presidential handshake from our President and the anti-corruption champion of Africa. In addition, ICPC will provide, through our public education and enlightenment programs, platform at which these awardees will be guest speakers to motivate other Nigerians that integrity pays, no matter how long it takes for you to be recognized. I will start by briefly reading the profile of ACG Abubakar, who, where is this to stand? Should he come down, sir? He should stay here. With your kind permission, sir, Mr. President, ACG Abubakar, Bashir Abubakar, is from the ancient city of Zaria. He was born in December 1962. He had his education at the Kaduna State Polytechnic and ABU Zaria, and he joined the Customs Service. He has attended many courses, both within and outside the country. He was promoted to be an ACG in 2019 and as ACG Board of Nigerian Customs Service. As a distinguished officer, this is not the first award he is receiving. He has been recipient of the CGC Merit Award Best Revenue Recovery in 2014, the CGC Amid Ibrahim Ali Letter of Commendation for Dedication in 2018, Ibrahim Ali Commendation in 2019, and the DG NAFDAC Merit Award for Support and Safeguarding Public Health in 2019. Mr. President, sir, in 2018, ACG Bashir Abubakar, as Customs Controller of Apapa Area Command, rejected a bribe of $412,000 offered to him by drug traffickers on 40 containers of tramadol, a controlled and highly addictive drug which has wreaked havoc on the mental health of Nigerians across all levels. Presently, ACG Abubakar is the coordinator of border operations on the Para border closure, and I can guarantee you no fly will go through that border post where he is on duty post. Sir, I humbly, sir, present to you for his display of integrity, for placing national interest above self, ACG Bashir Abubakar for the award of Public Service Integrity Award. Mr. President, sir. The second recipient Thank you, Mr. President, sir. The second recipient, Mrs. Josephine Ugu. Her case is particularly fascinating, sir. Despite a very obvious low economic status with a salary of only 12,000 and the frequent temptations at finding huge sums of money, Mrs. Ugu remains steadfast with integrity. Briefly, sir, she hails from Obukpa Town, Nsukka local government in Enugu State, born in December 1978. She has an OND and was employed as a worker by one of the companies that has the contract to clean the airport. In 2006, while working with the aero contractors as casual staff, on this salary of 12,000, she found and returned 10,200,000 naira at Akanu Ibiam Airport in Enugu. On the 23rd of December 2014, she found and returned the dollar equivalent of 8 million naira only at Muritala Mohammed International Airport. On 27th December in 2014, she found again and returned the dollar equivalent of 7,300,000 naira at Muritala Mohammed International Airport. On the 23rd of January 2015, she found and returned $12 million at Muritala Mohammed International Airport. On the 20th of February this year, sir, she found and returned 200,000 naira at the General Aviation Terminal in Lagos. Given this consistent practice of integrity, she was finally employed by FAN in 2015 on grade level 7, and she's currently on grade level 8. By this, on investigation, sir, we found that Mrs. Josephine Ugu has no accommodation. Therefore, ICPC, in collaboration with the Office of the Vice President, the support of the Woodford Consulting, led by Mrs. Timilade Okejo, who is also in the audience, and the kind donations of NMPC and Bank of Industry, we raised some money to buy her a bungalow, which I hope in Lagos. I wish to use this opportunity to acknowledge the donors of this worthy initiative. I also invite Mr. President to symbolically not just give her a lifetime presidential handshake, but also present the key to the bungalow. This is the bungalow, but furnished, to be handed over to Mrs. Ugu to say Nigeria appreciates you, what you have done, and we recognize your selfless effort. Mr. President, sir, I humbly present Mrs. Josephine Ugu to you, sir. Okay. Finally, sir, as I invite Mr. President to deliver his speech, I wish to make it publicly known that all the title documents to this property are completed in the name of Mrs. Ugu, and they are right here with us. I humbly invite the President, Commander-in-Chief, to deliver his address. Thank you, sir, Mr. President.
Thank you. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, representative of the Senate President and Speaker, House of Representatives, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, members of the Federal Executive Council, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senior government officials, representatives of development partners, civil society organizations, and trade unions, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by commending the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Chairman of ICPC, Professor Balaji Owasanoye, and the Board of the ICPC for organizing the National Summit on Diminishing Corruption in the Public Sector. This summit is a production of one of the three key priorities of our administration, which is to enhance the fight against corruption as contained in the government's governance roadmap, the Nigerian Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020. I have repeatedly said corruption is the cause of many major problems in our country. It is a catalyst for poverty, insecurity, weak educational system, poor health facilities and services, and many other ills of our society. This government is working hard to overcome such ills. Corruption generally, and public sector corruption in particular, inhibits the ability of government to deliver infrastructure and basic services to the people. That is why I have reiterated on many occasions that corruption is an existential threat to Nigeria. Corruption is furthermore a major threat to the attainment of the sustainable, globally accepted development goals and the socio-economic transformation we are all working hard to bring about in Nigeria. I have been following with keen interest activities of ICPC since I inaugurated the new board in February this year. I am aware of major enforcement and preventive initiatives of the current board of the ICPC, such as the system study review, tracking of zonal intervention projects, otherwise called constituency projects, your collaboration with the National Social Investment Office, and other measures that you are pursuing. Other people-oriented welfare projects of our government, or who by other means reduce the quality and value of such public projects. Following my directive, when I inaugurated the board, the ICPC has intensified its preventive mandate. I am aware that the Commission recently conducted system studies and review of many MDAs to evaluate systems and processes relating to transparency and accountability in personal and capital spending, through which you successfully blocked over 9 billion naira from being diverted from 2019 personal budget. That was a proactive prevention measure. I have directed that all agencies of government must get on the integrated payroll and personnel information system in order to eliminate the padding of personnel budgets. I urge ICPC to beam its searchlight on all agencies yet to get on the integrated payroll and personnel information system and our e-government platform in order to fully halt the padding of personnel budgets and the diversion of misappropriation of capital budgets. The war against corruption cannot be won without prevention, enforcement, public education, and enlightenment. I urge every well-meaning Nigerian to join in the fight against corruption. I encourage the ICPC and other law enforcement agencies to intensify their efforts in public education, enlightenment, and engagement with students. I also urge our development partners, civil society organizations, and the media to continue to support our efforts to strengthen ethical values in our public life. Enforcement activities by anti-corruption agencies continue to reveal that some public officers possess properties and assets way beyond their legitimate sources of income. Asset recovery cases in court also reveal that some of these criminally minded public officials are quick to disown these properties during investigation and in court. This administration will continue to support anti-corruption agencies to recover all ill-gotten wealth and prosecute offenders. We will ensure that all fully recovered physical assets are sold and the proceeds remitted to the Treasury. Recovered assets will continue to be deployed in the provision of needed infrastructure and social welfare programs. The National Social Investment Program is already utilizing recovered funds to touch the lives of vulnerable Nigerians. I therefore commend the partnership between the ICPC and the National Social Investment to ensure that beneficiaries of government social intervention programs are not shortchanged along the line by unpatriotic officials. I urge the chairman and board of the ICPC to sustain all preventive and enforcement measures and strategies and to enforce systems and processes for tracking all government projects to ensure that no project is abandoned nor not executed according to specifications. I see this opportunity to call for intensification of collaboration between anti-corruption agencies, the legislature, the judiciary, developmental partners, civil society organizations, and professional bodies. The fight against corruption is, of course, not only for government and anti-corruption agencies alone. All arms and tiers of government must develop and implement the anti-corruption measures. I invite the legislative and judicial arms of government to embrace and support the creation of Social Crimes Court that Nigerians have been agitating for to handle corruption cases. I therefore urge the legislature to fast-track the passage of the Social Crimes Court Bill. Passage of this bill is a specific priority of this administration's economic recovery and growth plan. Let me again note with concern the need to uphold the values of loyalty, honesty, trust, and integrity that they were once cherished in our public service. Ethics and integrity are the foundation of an enduring society. Nigerian culture does not tolerate dishonesty. Therefore, we must reclaim our traditional values of honesty, integrity, and hard work. In spite of the few bad eggs, I am delighted that many Nigerians still hold on to our traditional cherished values of honesty and integrity. I notice that the topics selected for discussion are issues that affect our nation and key to this administration's commitment to improve our society. Therefore, I hereby urge all ministers, heads of agencies, permanent secretaries, and directors to fully participate and attend both days of the summit to internalize and contribute to the deliberations, but more especially the solutions. Government looks forward to the deliberations and outcome of this summit. I wish you fruitful deliberation. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
That was the speech by President Muhammad Buhari on his keynote address on the summit on diminishing corruption in public service. On the
the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau,
the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Okay, I should pause now.
The representative of the Senate President, the representative of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the representative of the Minister of Justice, the Minister of the FCT, the Acting Head of Service, the Chief of Staff to the President of the Federal Republic,
we've just listened to President Muhammad Buhari giving his speech on the summit on diminishing corruption in public service. You are still onto the network service of NTA. Let me remind you that during the presidential election in 2014, Mr. President made it a point that he was going to fight corruption. this transmission of the summit on diminishing corruption in public service. Quick before we go, like when the president won election 2015, he vowed to fight corruption, and since then he has been committed to anti-graft war. It has remained one of his topmost priority. Nigerians both at home and in diaspora have applauded his fight since then, and this fight has no doubt continued to instill fears in public servants, both in the public and in the private sectors. We have seen the war being fought in all angles. This is where we come to the end of the transmission and network service of NTA. On behalf of all the production crew, we want to say good day.
Media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. All visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
Man is created to be able to make choices in life. The choices we make as Homo sapiens makes man either rational or an irrational being. Based on his choices, he is expected to be responsible for the totality of his actions and inactions. A man's lifestyle is the interest, opinions, behaviors, and behavioral orientations of the individual, group, or culture. Life is full of choices, good or bad, white or black. The various choices we make as individuals will one day catch up with us. One of those choices we make in life relates to our health. After all, it is often said, health is wealth. It suffices that our health is important and should be precious to us. However, some of our choices in life as individuals responsible for our various ways of life leaves much to be desired. While a healthy lifestyle will help promote physical fitness and leave us energetic and at reduced risk for diseases, based on the choices we make in our daily habits, an unhealthy lifestyle exposes us to avoidable risk of varying degrees of dangers, some controllable and some fatal.
Your lifestyle can affect your health in several ways. If you're a smoker, be prepared to die early. If you're a drunkard, your liver is at stake. So if you live a good lifestyle, there's every tendency that you would live longer.
Kind of food you eat, like proteinous foods, which are very, very good for our health. Not that alone, you taking good water to flushing and to make your food digest easily.
We must be able to consider physical fitness, because people who do not, indulge in exercises, daily exercises, they sometimes have their life being, hampered. So on a daily basis, we must be able to form the habit of, doing exercises, or the other have ourselves, doing physical fitness exercises.
When you live your life, you need to balance up. You don't need to overstress and overwork yourself. Yes, you should work, but you should know the balance between work and rest, so you don't break down at a point and then you just get very useless.
What we consume, eat, drink, or smoke goes a long way in determining the status of our health in the long run.
The most common for us, and I think I should start with that, is unnecessary sugar. Instead of doing that, why not opt for a healthy option like your fruit juice, freshly made, which you're sure contains nutrients. Too much alcohol is not good for the body. Cigarette already said that already. And then fats, they have saturated fats. Saturated fats are totally bad for us.
Good nutrition, daily exercise, and adequate sleep are foundations for continued good health. As important and simplistic these seems, it requires great discipline for anyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, which helps improve our general well-being.
If you are self-read, if you take your body seriously enough to be able to research by yourself, I don't think it will cost you anything. Because if you think your body is important enough and you read up on what to do at the right time and how to handle your body, it wouldn't cost you anything. But if you feel like, oh, you're too busy doing, because there's something I respect professionalism. There are some people, like I said, I'm a lifestyle doctor. This is my work. This is where I am focused on. So if you think you're too busy focusing on your own profession, that you wouldn't have the time to do that, then it would cost you something to be able to get my service. But if you really take your body seriously, it shouldn't cost you anything to read up on things to do to make yourself a better person.
Eating the right food, fruits, vegetables, stress management, and a regular medical checkup can help us to maintain a perfect or near perfect healthy living. Unfortunately, it's been discovered that most people are complacent about their lifestyle habits, and so they do the opposite of what ordinarily should help them promote and sustain a good healthy living.
Unhealthy lifestyle is actually life-threatening. It is life-threatening. Beyond the fact that it might cost your life, I think you should actually think about, a lot of people, nobody wants to die really. People want to live long. But if you want to live long, quote and unquote, how do you want to see yourself when you are like 80? Do you want to be a burden on people? Do you want to be healthy enough? Do you want to be strong enough to function properly? Because actually living a healthy lifestyle is like an investment. Most people that are sad, depressed, if you check, their lifestyles are not in order. If you follow all the 6 headings, from the nutrition to exercise to tobacco and alcohol consumption to stress management to proper sleeping and having healthy relationships, if these lifestyles, if they are well balanced, I can assure you won't have people committing suicide. So like the toll on the body, the list is endless.
In general, as rational human beings, you are responsible for the consequences of your actions and inactions. Why won't you choose to live a healthy lifestyle that will not predispose you to fatal consequences in life? The choice is yours.
The history of art is as old as the history of man. Man by nature is artistic when it comes to how he relates to his environment. Life is said to be an expression of beauty and art, where different materials or things are used to beautify the environment and even the human body. The beautification of the human body tells a story of different cultures, but one commonly found in this part of the country is the henna designs. The precision in henna design is a wonder, as the creative nature of man is brought to play.
Yes. One day as I did dab they go. Now I see my neighbor on top electric pole. Don't be hammer you hold so. Before. So climb every day. Come on electric bill. You not gree pay. Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here. Okay, oh. I don't talk my own. As I dab reach house. Yeah! Fire! Fire! My brand new flat screen. Hold up. Waiting concern you for there. I beg you.
Come over here.
Government property, na my property. If you don't come down now, I go report.
Don't believe report. Now report card.
Dab, 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 dab,
Now, the global community is faced with the challenge of improving sanitation, and sizable targets of the Sustainable Development Goals must be achieved for the challenge to be tackled. Sadly, the indices is not encouraging, as the United Nations statistics indicates that 4.2 billion people globally live without safely managed sanitation. In fact, Nigeria, with an estimated 200 million population, has deficit of toilet facilities for 116 million people. Out of this figure, 38.8 million of them tend to be comfortable with open defecation. The burning issue now is the link poor sanitation has with transmission of diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, hepatitis A, and even polio. Even the waterborne gastroenteritis, which has claimed more than 10 lives in Lagos, is one of the products of lack of toilet facilities and poor sanitation. How then can the global community and Nigeria overcome this challenge? And what should be the health-related strategies needed to change the tide? We will be providing answers to these and more on Panorama from the Lagos Network Center. I am Jennifer Igwe. We will be right back. The Bayelsa State Governor-elect, David Leon, has been tasked to ensure that the trust and confidence reposed in him, as well as the enormous goodwill he enjoys across party lines in the oil-rich state, are not misplaced when he assumes office. President Muhammadu Buhari, who threw the challenge while receiving the governor-elect, insists that effective strategies must be fashioned out for responsible and functional leadership in Bayelsa State. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
It was a joyous moment for President Muhammadu Buhari as the APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole and the Chairman of the APC Governorship Campaign Organization, Governor Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State, formally present to him the Bayelsa State Governor-elect, David Leon. The president is not only happy because of his party's overwhelming victory, but most importantly, the transparent and peaceful manner the election was conducted.
I congratulate you most sincerely, and I congratulate the party because people thought that was an untouchable constituency, but thank goodness we made it.
I think everybody knows our style now. It's good to succeed. They say nothing succeeds like success, but to succeed in APC means even more work. I'm very pleased you are very well known in your state, so that people will not be disappointed by choosing you.
The national chairman of the party, Adams Oshomole, and other speakers attributed the party's victory in Bayelsa State to the people-centered policies and programs of the Buhari administration, as well as the guidance and support of the president.
To have all the oil-producing states in opposition is not, even in terms of national security, I think there are issues. So the benefit of our having our own APC government in Bayelsa State, for me, cannot be overemphasized. So we are also excited that under your leadership, more good things are happening to our party.
We thank you very much, sir, for the leadership, and we follow your footsteps in being transparent, honest, and straightforward. And I think our candidate stands on that, and he will not fail you.
During the visit, President Buhari and other speakers appreciated the role played by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, in ensuring victory for the APC.
This gives our party a footprint in the Niger Delta. And I want to assure you, the APC is a good product, just like our governor, and we intend to sell that good product in the whole of the South-South and the Southeast.
Many people worked hard in making this happen. Most importantly, Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, who have always shown the party that win or lose, we should aim for free, transparent, and fair elections. And in Bayelsa, we have seen a demonstration of that.
The governor-elect, David Leon, assured the president that he is prepared to do whatever it takes within the limits of the law to take Bayelsa to the next level.
We, Bayelsans, will not disappoint APC, and I believe there will be a serious positive change in Bayelsa State.
The media briefing also provided the opportunity for the APC family members to rejoice over what they called the glaring rejection by Nigerians, all those who monetized their mandate and defected from the governing APC, especially in the 8th National Assembly.
So I think the lessons to be learned for us as a party are rather clear, that when politicians go to the polls to collect mandate on a particular political party platform, and then they get the dues and dub the party to another party, the electorate will always be waiting for them.
The Bayelsa State Governor-elect David Leon will be sworn in on the 14th of February next year. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Now, the Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, says the federal government will continue to collaborate with the Nigerian Union of Journalists and other such bodies as it moves towards sanitizing the nation's social media space. The minister stated this when he granted audience to the leadership of the NUJ in Abuja. Anthony Fossen completes the report.
In using this statement, actually put the cart before the horse by publicly rejecting the planned social media regulation without even trying to understand what it entails.
The Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, laying the cards on the table, explaining to the leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists rationale behind plans to sanitize the social media space. The minister made it clear that the situation has assumed an alarming proportion, which, if not checked, will lead to a disastrous consequence, as it has become an all-commerce profession.
As a professional body for journalists, the NUJ has its code of ethics for journalists, and this guides their operations. To the best of my knowledge, no trained professional journalist can afford to engage in fake news. I also believe that no trained professional journalist can afford to engage in hate speech because he or she will not know the consequences. It is therefore imperative for the NUJ and other professional bodies to guard their turf very jealously and ward off charlatans and fakes. We say clearly that the regulation is not an attempt to gag the media.
Emphasizing on the need to sanitize the social media space, the minister called on the Nigerian Union of Journalists and other such professional bodies to join the process.
As a matter of fact, the major beneficiary of injecting sanity into the social media or even the broadcasting code is trained professional journalists. They're not the ones who are out to regulate. No. It's those charlatans. And today, it comes to question, who's actually a journalist? Is everybody on the social media a journalist? We believe that the NUJ and other media professional bodies should take the lead in sanitizing the media space.
On his part, the national president of the union, Chris Isiguzo, who maintained that a free press that is independent, vibrant, and nationalistic is a critical precondition for good governance in a democracy.
Will appeal to the Honorable Minister, sir, as the spokesman of the federal government of Nigeria, to ensure that safety of journalists is a priority
and that nothing should be done to attempt restricting freedom of the press.
Chris Isiguzo equally raised some salient issues bordering on practitioners, which the minister responded to with assurances that the ministry and the union will work to ensure that journalists are protected at all times. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Now to health and sanitation. As the world marks 2019 Toilet Day, focus is on expanding and improving access to sanitation for more than 4.2 billion people living without safely managed sanitation facilities. Lynn Leneke in this report examines the importance of adequate provision of sanitation facilities to health.
World Toilet Day is an annual global event to raise awareness on the crucial role that sanitation plays in reducing disease and creating healthier communities. This is in line with Sustainable Development Goal 6, which promotes sanitation for all by 2030. It is, however, important considering the number of people exposed to infections and disease and deaths recorded due to poor sanitation habits.
The department responsible for public health really has to rise up with their personnel and do what is needful.
The level of hygiene and sanitation in Lagos is very low, or let me say very poor. Maybe because of people's culture or their way of thinking.
Rapid population growth in Nigeria, particularly in urban areas, is putting a strain on sanitation facilities. Poor sanitation habits and inadequate toilets are also factors that encourage open defecation.
I want the government to do more and more to other places.
We need the government to help us in order to provide mobile toilets in the environment.
The global theme for this year's Toilet Day observance is Leaving No One Behind, aimed at drawing attention of government and the citizens to the importance of implementing policies that will enhance standard sanitation practices and reduce the menace of open defecation and indiscriminate disposal of waste. In Lagos, Lynn Lenake, NTA News.
Thank you, Lynn. And joining us live in the studio to talk more on this is a medical practitioner, Dr. Memuna Kadiri. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
Now, do you think we're taking the challenge of open defecation serious?
No.
Why?
We are not taking it seriously. Maybe because we are not seeing statistically how many people this is affecting and how many lives we lose on a daily basis from the complications that arise from poor sanitation. For example, when there is poor sanitation, poor personal and food hygiene, we do understand, with even the open defecation, we have what we call diarrhea. And diarrhea is a symptom of waterborne diseases like cholera, dysentery, all this food poisoning. And people on a day-to-day basis die from this. But we are not seeing it like something that we should take like Ebola. During the Ebola period, we knew how everybody came together, rally around. The common man on the street was able to understand the impact of what that means. If we begin to start taking poor sanitation the way we took that Ebola, I believe everything will change, because you've just read our statistics. In a country of 200 million people, over 160 million people don't have good sanitation, and open defecation, over 38 million people. How do we come out of poverty with poor sanitation?
It's interesting because it's a story that has been told over and over again. There has been awareness campaigns, and it's as if the trend still has not moved to the positive. But maybe because most people don't understand the link between having toilet facilities and health. So what is that link?
Yeah, so good. If we have good toilet facilities, and we are not featuring on, you must have a water system, you will flush, it has to be posh, even the pit latrine. That is why they said safely manage sanitation. Even the pit latrine, is it well covered? Even the one that is not in the urban area, is it well guarded? Is it protected after the usage? Do you have a slab that covers it? These are the things we are talking about, because poor sanitation, if you have it, You cannot leave poverty. And what are we fighting for? At least the first sustainable development goal, and we understand in Nigeria that poverty is still a very key thing. With poor sanitation, we cannot ever achieve elevating ourselves from poverty. And health-wise, we know that health is wealth. For every country to be wealthy and with the GDP to go up, the populace, the community, the environment has to be clean. People have to be healthy, starting with safe, clean water, starting with good sanitation, starting with good personal and food hygiene.
And I think also attitudinal change is also key.
Very key.
Because there are areas where they even have toilet facilities, but people hardly use them.
Even when they use them, they don't even flush.
Yes.
And they come to the workplaces and carry that attitude. So the thing about why did he make mention of attitude as one of the first burners that is so difficult. Even in research, we see it. Changing attitude is really, really difficult. And that is why health education, public enlightenment must start from every home. Because when you are wired that way to keep good sanitation, wash your hands after using a toilet, wash your hands before eating, we will grow up, go to the school, replicate that, grow up, go to the workplaces, replicate that. So that attitude, you carry it irrespective of any other thing you grow. But if we don't do that in every home, in our own little corners, how do we begin to start changing other people's attitude that are messed up in the workplaces or in the general society?
And then this brings me to the theme of the 2019 Toilet Day, which is leaving no one behind. So what strategies can we put in place to ensure that we have toilet facilities everywhere and people use them so that at the end of the day, no one is actually left behind?
We've left a lot of people behind, and that's why the statistics are really sadly so. We've left a lot of people, over 4.2 million people.
Or they chose to leave themselves.
No, funny enough. So when we look at where we are in the urbanized area. We'll talk about the rural areas where open defecation is a normal thing. The truth is that strategies to put in place, it needs a lot of funding. And that's why they are talking about by 2030, they want to make sure the SDG goal number 6 should be good sanitation, of course, safe water and order. We need health education and enlightenment. And that must not be just lip service. It must be properly implemented. Homes, schools, churches, corporate organizations, all that is it should be like signposts everywhere, written, where you see it regularly, where it registers in your brain. Safety water, good sanitation, good personal and food hygiene. So you see, this food hygiene thing, a lot of people may have food poisoning and they won't know where the problem may be coming from.
Like the case of gastroenteritis
that's happening in Lagos right now. Food poisoning is there. Aside from the water, poor sanitation and, of course, pollution of our water because of open defecation, that waste is transported miles away from where it happened, and whatever is said to perch on it, animals to perch on it, people will go to the toilet, don't wash your hands, and they're the ones that are cooking. We are living in very difficult times. People are stressed up, so they wake up, they run to their workplaces, they don't even bother to cook. So another thing we can add is, can people begin to start cooking themselves more? That is another way we can also checkmate this. Because when you cook, you know exactly what you use, how you use it.
And you trust sanitation and hygiene.
Because if all of us see where the food we eat comes from.
Okay, then don't let us go there because
we wouldn't want to eat. Yes,
that's a story for another day. Yeah. But we've hammered on the fact that we need toilets. But most times we just think it's just something the government should do. But I'm just thinking, if we have organizations, individuals as part of their CSR provide toilets, don't you think it will help?
So this sanitation thing is a human right thing. And people shouldn't look at just the government. And if we're even looking at government, it must be all tiers of government, from the local government, national, state, and the federal. But corporate organizations, even individuals, NGOs, we need all hands on deck to tackle this sanitation, because we can't take away poverty if we have poor sanitation. Because under 5, they die every day because of all this poor sanitation and all the complications that come with it. So NGOs, corporate organizations, sit as CSR, build more public toilets, equipped people that can do it. It must not necessarily be you. You can do a public-private partnership
and get the community involved.
The community must be, because once the community is not involved, it's work done zero. You will build, it won't be maintained, and at the end of the day, nobody will use it.
Thank you, Dr. Kadiri. Dr. Ememuna Kadiri is always passionate about issues like this. Thank you for coming to Panorama. Now we'll take a break. Panorama continues shortly. Stay with us.
Slavery is an evil practice abolished all over the world over 200 years ago. But today, human traffickers are selling human beings as slaves in Africa. It is your responsibility to make sure that you and the people you know do not fall into slavery. Don't believe fake promises of jobs abroad.
People went to say Libya, Italy no use you when they carry me on top water. 4 days now they lock me for inside house, no food, no water. I nearly die. Now God, when me heaven and earth, now save me. If you get 1 naira for Nigeria, you get junior 1, you say you no get papa, you no get mama, now make you come out. I beg go they do farm work. You better pass person when enter road.
Don't accept to travel to Europe through the Sahara Desert. You may be walking into slavery. Don't be a slave.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by
Welcome back. Now, still on the environment, but this time on wildlife and safety. A lion being reared in a house at Victoria Island, Lagos, by a foreign national. The Lagos State Task Force on Environment has moved the wild cat to an animal resort. Paul Omukago reports that the lion was tranquilized by veterinary experts before it was taken away.
At the background is house number 229 here at Muri Okunola Street. Unknown to residents, a 2-year-old lion has been in this neighborhood since February 2019. Please. This much entity gathered when officials of the Lagos State Task Force on Environmental Sanitation and Special Offences led veterinary experts to tranquilize the wild cat.
The caretaker came to our office that an Indian national rented the apartment in the pretext of staying in this house. But unfortunately, he put a lion, 2-year-old lion, inside that house since February, claiming that he's renovating that house. It took us a lot of time because the animal has been excited because of the crowd, and then we have to allow the animal to calm down. And at the end of the day, we succeeded in tranquilizing the lion.
The occupant of the building was not around at the time the lion was whisked away.
Somebody got in to fetch water. Then he came back, but he couldn't differentiate between a lion and a tiger.
It's not something that should be allowed to stay within the neighborhood where people are living. It's actually scary.
The person feeding the lion said there is lion in the compound. So when we got that, we got the facts and we petitioned the Ministry of Environment.
NG News saw officials from Etiosa local government serving a notice on the alleged owner of the lion to move it away from the area, a step regarded by residents